Oh, hello there. Welcome to TechDweeb's Retro Handheld Testing Lab. I'm TechDweeb, certified nerdologist, licensed emulator whisperer, and board-certified doodad abuser. Today I'm here to share some exciting news. I've been testing the all-new Amberlic RG557. I've done the math, calibrated the benchmarks, recombobulated the thingamabobs, and I have discovered that, believe it or not, this thing, this RG557, is a retro handheld. I can see you're speechless with amazement. That's understandable. And if, oh God. Mom! Get the fire extinguisher! Hello, hi, I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today, and welcome to my testing lab, which totally isn't my regular desk with a white cover and some random crap I found in my garage. Today we're here to look at this thing, the RG557, Amberlic's new top-end retro doodad. This is sort of a refresh of their last top-end device, the RG556, which I reviewed on my channel before. It's the same size and shape, but with new guts inside and a new screen, I think. Maybe it's the same screen, I don't know. But I do know that this is their new flagship, the best of the best that Amberlic has to offer. This thing is kind of a beast, but also kind of janky, but also kind of cool, and also kind of weird. It's kind of lots of stuff. And today we're going to dissect this thing with the full force of all the science I can muster. This RG557 was kindly sent to me by Amberlic for the purpose of review. And this RG557 was kindly sent to me by LitNXT for the purpose of review. So I didn't know that Amberlic was sending me this one, so when LitNXT asked if I wanted one, I said yes, and then they both arrived at my door, and now I'm in the awkward position where I need to make a video and I don't know who I should give the shout out to. So there's links for both of these guys in the description below, and I'll just let you choose which one you check out. And now we'll move on to a segment that I call the numbers you'll forget in 2 minutes. This bad girl is rocking the Dimensity 8300 processor, and it has an integrated Mali GPU, 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM, we get 256 gigabytes of UFS 4.0 internal storage, it's running Android 14, and we get Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3, and the battery is 5500 milliamp hours. The screen is a 5.5-inch AMOLED screen with a resolution of 1920 by 1080. Oh, and by the way, while we're talking about the screen, I need to mention that you're gonna see screen flickering in this video. This screen is hard to film, man. I had to wrestle with my camera, and this is the best I could do. But the screen does not look like this in real life, just here in fake life. If I had a nickel for every retro handheld that used this exact layout, I'd have lots of nickels. Probably enough to buy a retro handheld, actually. On the front, we have that big old 5.5-inch AMOLED screen and a left stick in the upper configuration and a D-pad under that. Down here is a function button, Android back and home, and on the right we have some buttons and a stick under those. And start and select down here. Up top, we have a couple of bumpers and a couple of triggers and a power button, volume up and down, and some holes. Nothing on the sides, and around back there's some more holes. I don't know what they're for. I'm terrible at my job. Underneath, we have two downward-firing speakers and a sneaky trap door with an SD card hole inside, and a headphone hole and a USB-C hole for both video out and charging the device. And speaking of charging, this video is sponsored by Ugreen and their Nexode 4-port 100-watt fast charger. In the cluttered habitat of the modern dweeb, survival depends on power. First, the laptop hungers. Easily satisfied. But wait, the phone cries out. Not a problem. Oh, but a second phone? Curious. Why do you have two phones? Still, no struggle. Surely the mighty Ugreen Nexode 100-watt charger cannot handle a handheld gaming device as well. Ah, but it can. Behold this compact marvel. 4 devices fed simultaneously, safely, and reliably. Also, it is said that if you connect the 100-watt max output port, it can charge the MacBook Air M2 to 55% in just 30 minutes. Silent as a mother red-crested mountain baboon cradling her young on the rocky cliffs of Uganda, the Ugreen Nexode 100-watt charger tends to its 4 precious charges with the fierce devotion that only a mother can give. Check the description to save 31% during Ugreen Brand Day deals and feed your hungry gadgets the power they crave. When I first opened this and got it in my hands, I felt two things. One, I felt sad because I was out of chips. And two, I realized I opened it upside down and then I was immediately blown away. Look at the shape of this thing. It's obviously shaped like Finn from Adventure Time. Do you know what this means? Of course you don't, but I'll tell you. This means that Amberlick loves Adventure Time. Proven by science. Go on, Finn. Say it. Say the thing.
Mathematical!
And speaking of Adventure Time, the hand feel of the 557 is a double-edged sword. Finn has a sword, is what I mean by that. On the one hand, it's amazing in the sense that it's super ergonomic. This might be one of the most comfortable handhelds that I own. However, the bad part of the hand feel is that it doesn't feel high quality. This might be subjective, but I find it kind of cheap feeling. These seams around the edge down here aren't very nice. They don't line up perfectly and they end up feeling kind of scratchy. This is the kind of thing that would be fine on a sub $100 handheld, but this isn't a sub $100 handheld. And I kind of wish that it felt better than it does. To be clear, that's a minor gripe. Overall, I do like the look of it and the hand feel. It's super comfy and I could game on this for hours. And I did, and I survived, so you'll probably find it pretty good too. The controls are overall pretty great. The D-pad and the buttons are a bit on the stiff side. I have no issues with the D-pad inputs, no false diagonals, but easy to hit the diagonals when you want to. Apart from the stiffness, which did take a bit of getting used to, it was totally fine for fighting games. The stiffness on the buttons meant that sometimes when I press kind of soft, like when my dweeby little fingers just couldn't muster enough pressure, and it wouldn't register the press, so I'd have to press it with a tad more enthusiasm. Sort of like if there was a little gummy bear under the buttons there. A sad little gummy bear living his worst life. The sticks. I've heard lots of complaints about the sticks. People saying they're too small, but maybe there's something wrong with me. Well, I mean, there's lots of things wrong with me, but maybe there's something wrong with me about stick size because I actually kind of love these sticks. I think they feel amazing. And I like that they're small. The caps feel nice at that size, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on any sort of movement. I like them. They feel great to me, and you get great quality inputs too. One last thing I'll say about the controls is that they're pretty darn quiet. Not silent, but the buttons and the D-pad are nice and stealthy. The bumpers are a tad clicky, but they are quiet compared to lots of handhelds. Definitely quieter than the Retroid Pocket 5. The screen is, really freaking good. It's OLED, it's 5.5 inches, it's super bright with rich creamy colors and dark inky blacks. It's bright enough that I can play it outside, and it gets dim enough that I can play it in bed next to all the girls in my bed every night. I don't want to wake the girls. You know, it's 1080p, so you get plenty of pixels to work with. At 5.5 inches, that's super sharp. So you could run most retro systems with integer scaling, and the image will still be nice and big. And you can upscale your GameCube and PS2 or whatever up to 1080p to get those nice and crispy. The only downside is that the screen has PWM flickering, which you can see on the video, but you cannot see this with your eyeballs. Apparently, some people are sensitive to this, and it gives them headaches or whatever, but I have no issue. I played with this all day yesterday, and I survived. And the sound is, it's alright. Not great, but not terrible. It's loud enough, and it gets as quiet as you'd expect for an Android doodad. And the video out works good too, as you would expect. It's a 1080p output signal, and you can use this like a home console when you have it connected to your TV. No surprises, which is exactly how I like my retro handhelds. And my oatmeal. Android handhelds are awesome because they're super powerful, battery friendly, and they can run Android games and PC stuff and stream your Steam backlog you'll never finish. But the catch is that you gotta set them up yourself. That's one of the reasons I've heard that people like Amberlick devices. They're high-end Android devices and they come preloaded, all set up and ready to rock. I've got the 256 gigabyte card here, so let's see how plug and play it really is. And spoiler alert, it's a mess. The Amberlick launcher is functional but janky and also ugly. The ROM sets are a disaster. Duplicate games and missing games, ROM hacks mixed in with the regular games, foreign language games, bad file names, no alphabetical order. It's like someone tripped and dumped a hard drive full of ROM files into a folder and said, well, yeah, that's fine, good enough. You do get games, a bit PSP and DS and some Wii, even some Wii U. That's wild, but no GameCube, which confused me. No GameCube on there. And the PS2 selection is just weird. 3 Silent Scope games, but no Tony Hawk's or Battlefront 2. What dark timeline is this? It comes with scraped art on some of the games, but most of the games don't have scraped art. RetroArch is a custom Frankenstein version that works fine, but it's a little bit weird. And the standalone emulators all need fixing, like turning off the on-screen buttons and rebinding the controls if you don't use the Switch layout. So yeah, you can get the preloaded version and avoid setting it up yourself, but it's so janky that you'll end up fixing everything anyway. And at that point, you might as well just do it yourself from scratch. I made a guide for that. It's linked below. Save yourself from this madness. Once I wiped out all the stock stuff and I put my own Android SD card in there to do my own setup, everything got way better. I installed all my favorite emulators, my front end of choice, which is ESDE. I linked it to my game library and suddenly it wasn't a janky mess. It felt like just another Android handheld. That's what I like in an Android handheld, when it feels like my other handhelds. ESDE makes it feel like a proper retro handheld. Fun and clean and organized. I threw in RetroArch for the older stuff, Dolphin for GameCube, Citra for 3DS, Aether SX2 for PS2, PPSSPP for PSP, and a tangled web of questionable Switch emulators, as one does. It's Android 14, which is nice, and Amberlic have given us some quick options to do things like enable a high performance mode and to change the fan and the RBG on the sticks and to calibrate the sticks. It's not as polished as something as like a Retroid device, but this gets the job done. One thing that you've probably heard about is that this device out of the box probably comes with an older version of the firmware with older drivers on there. So if you get this, you should update it right away because you get some better compatibility and performance after the update. This is a higher end Android doodad, which means that you're gonna buy this to play not just the older stuff, but also higher end stuff like PSP and Dreamcast and Saturn, and also GameCube and PS2, and some hit or miss Switch on top of that, and maybe Windows emulation, although I didn't dabble in that. And when it comes to that stuff, the gaming performance is honestly fine. Some reviews of this thing say it's great, and some say it's subpar, and none of them are wrong, really. We're on a Dimensity 8300 processor here with a Mali GPU, so the compatibility won't be as good as something like even the Retroid Pocket 5 with a Snapdragon CPU. But it's still an overall great experience despite the intermittent quirks. The only exception is maybe Switch, because lots of Switch emulators on here don't have the compatibility that they do on Snapdragon chips, and you can't use the custom drivers like the Black Mesa turnip drivers. And most Switch does play fine on here if you shop around for which emulator works best for which game, so it's not like you can't play Switch on here. And one other thing is PS2. Considering the performance that we get on GameCube, which is amazing, you'd expect PS2 performance to keep up, but it's a bit worse than you'd expect. You're not going to be able to play every PS2 game upscale. In the highest end, hardest to run games, you're going to have to dip into the underclocking settings and lower the resolution, and some games won't be able to run at all, no matter what you do. However, again, you can still have a ton of fun playing PS2. And even the highest end Android devices can't play every PS2 game, so don't feel like you're missing out on a whole realm of emulation or anything. And we get quite a bit more power here than on something like the RP5. It's more like on a Snapdragon chip like the RP5, you might get better compatibility but worse performance. And on the 557, it's the opposite. Better performance but worse compatibility. So it's a toss-up there, to be honest. However, there are some good reasons to pick the 557 over the RP5, which we'll talk about. As always, my favorite stuff to play on here is the older stuff. However, since this is a widescreen and beautiful OLED display and kind of a larger handheld, my definition of older stuff extends up to PSP and Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast and Saturn. And even GameCube, I can play most GameCube games upscaled to 3x resolution, and only the very hardest games do I ever need to like mess with the settings or whatever. And it plays Android games good, and the controller is detected in some games, but it's not a Xbox controller, so some games don't like it. And I couldn't get the on-screen key mapper to work. I wrestled with this for a couple minutes, and maybe I could have got it working if I wrestled with it for a few more minutes. Maybe it's gonna work for you. I don't know. And game streaming was amazing. I used this to stream from my gaming PC, and I had a great time. If you wanted a super comfy, nice and big handheld with an amazing screen to do some streaming, this will serve you very well. I didn't do any extensive battery tests, and it's not because I was lazy, and I'm offended that you would suggest such a thing, but I did record some quick battery drain figures, and using science, I extrapolated the results and recombobulated the findings into some numbers. And I will now read those numbers to you. In my worst case scenario, which is running a PS2 game with frame throttle disabled, I calculated 2 hours and 15 minutes of game time. In my middle case scenario, which is running a Dreamcast game upscaled to 1080p, I calculated a bit under 4 hours of game time. And in the best case scenario, which is running a GBA game, I calculated 8 hours and 10 minutes of game time. So pretty average battery life results, really. The one big benefit is that this has 27 watt fast charging, so this charges up quick. That's a nice feature. It kind of eliminates some of the battery anxiety, knowing you can top it up a good amount while you go watch a TechDweeb video while you poop. So should you buy the RG557? And more importantly, should you buy that instead of a Retroid Pocket 5 or an Odin Portal or whatever? In some ways, it's kind of an unfair comparison because these are all such different devices. The RP5 is much more pocket friendly. It's less powerful, but it's probably a higher quality overall build. The Odin 2 Portal, or even the original Odin, is a lot bigger, more powerful, but more expensive. But when I consider the retro handheld landscape, I see no reason that the RG557 can't slot right in between the RP5 and the Odin 2. It's about middle in terms of price, and I think it's a fine choice. I can see myself grabbing this just as often as my RP5, if not more often, just because it's so comfy to use. And it's fast and it's pretty, it runs every retro game that I'd be throwing at it without breaking a sweat. Is it overkill just for playing WarioWare for the 87th time? Maybe. Do I care? Absolutely not. And that concludes this rigorous TechDweeb Labs investigation. The science thing that I did. Yes, it counts as science. But like all good science, we need some peer review. So please, in the comments, let me know what you think of the RG557. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Or just tell me about your favorite handheld or your favorite sandwich or anything else, really. Just say something. I'm lonely. And that's it from me for today. I'm TechDweeb, fading into the mist like a Game Boy low on batteries.